Madam Chair, you are live.
Thank you so much. All right, we have everybody here. At 5:01 PM, I'm going to call the Wednesday, August 21st Quality of Life Committee meeting to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Counselor Castro,
Presente.
Counselor Chavez.
Here.
Counselor Garcia,
Present.
Counselor Faulkner.
Here.
Madam Chair,
Here.
you have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the agenda, and I am going to have a request from Counselor Faulkner to move up matters from the committee to right before the presentation. Would you like to go ahead and make that motion?
Motion to move matters from the committee members ahead of the presentation. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to approval of consent. Did anything get pulled?
Madam Chair, nothing got pulled. However, agenda item M, I have been asked to make sure it is removed.
Oh.
It did not need to come to committee.
Okay. All right, we probably need to do that during approval of the agenda.
Wasn't sure.
That's okay. Let's scroll back to approval of the agenda. All right, so now can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moving the actually,
So my understanding was
or let's go ahead and move the let's approve consent, removing item M. So let's go ahead and do that. So can I get a motion to approve consent as amended?
Wait.
Removing from the agenda. Yeah.
1 second. On consent, I need to remove items I, J, K, and L for recusal.
Wonderful. Okay, so. All right. Can I get a motion to
approve as amended.
as amended? Okay. Motion and a second. Can I please get a roll call?
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you so much. And can you repeat those for me, Counselor Garcia? IJKL, did you say?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, wonderful. So moving on to matters from the committee, I will go ahead and pass it over to Counselor Faulkner and then any other members of the committee that have any matters.
I would just like to introduce the council members to Nick McKenzie. He is the Veterans Affairs liaison for Senator Ben Ray Lujan's office. So if you ever need help with anything with veterans, he's your guy. He's amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. And how can we contact you? Do you want to reach out to us? Do you want to give us contact information now? Oh, can you actually, sorry, do you mind going to the mic and?
I'll actually send an email to everyone with my point of contact to the office. And I'm actually located right over here at the Federal Building also, so you can definitely walk over there and get a hold of me. And it's not just VA issues, any issues with any federal agency. I can assist with just acting as a liaison, doing congressional inquiries and things like that. My specialty, though, is veteran affairs. I myself am a 20-year Navy veteran, and I also used to be the veteran service officer for a couple of the counties when I used to work for the state of New Mexico. So I'm very familiar with that process. So thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here and we look forward to connecting. Any other matters from any other members of the committee? Remind me when we get to the end of the agenda that we already did this and I can skip it. Oh, do you have something, Counselor Castro?
I just want to announce that there's a town hall tomorrow at GCCC. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councilor. Geneva Chavez Community Center, 6 to 8 p.m. on the topic of crime and public safety.
Thank you. Any other matters? All right, let's go ahead and move on to our presentation. It is the Office of Economic Development Strategic Plan Update. We have Johanna Nelson, our OED Director, and Director Nelson, welcome so much. Welcome so much. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Floor is yours.
Here we go. All right, great. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for having me tonight. I shared a presentation that's available on PrimeGov. You have access to that. But I want to thank Counselor Cassett for the opportunity to be here with you tonight to give you an overview of our American Rescue Plan Act project status, as well as our comprehensive economic development strategic plan. Hopefully tonight you'll get an overview of what we're doing, and this will be an opportunity for you to be able to share that with your constituents as well. So if you go to slide 3,
IT,
Thank
could
you.
you help me pull this up on the screen?
maybe that felt a little weird. Do I need to connect my computer?
I have the, but I can't. Okay.
All right, are we ready? I see we've got IT.
We're ready if you are.
Okay, wonderful. So just an opportunity to remind the quality of life counselors that our mission, economic development, really is about diversifying and strengthening the economy, as well as creating equitable opportunities for our residents. And you can see our staff listed on the right side of the screen. We've got 2 people focused on business development. These are our economic development specialists. We also have a workforce and broadband specialist, and asset development falls in our shop too. Next slide, please. I wanted to, so next slide. I wanted to also share our priority areas to strengthen and diversify the economy, to create equitable opportunities. These are our hows. How are we doing this? We have 7 priority areas. I'll take a moment to share that with you all. Equitable economic mobility, business support. This is where you see business retention, growth and expansion, as well as industry focus. We also have organizational development and efficiency. Our strategic planning. Number 4 is workforce training and development. Number 5 is ecosystem building or placemaking. Number 6 is Wi-Fi accessibility and broadband. And number 7 is strategic asset development. On the right side of the screen, you can see our focus areas. These are really about our values. Our values really help to identify our priority areas. So this is support socially and economically disadvantaged populations. How do we increase communications, not only internally on our city team, but with our public? And number 3, how do we support and cultivate quality of life while we are doing and delivering our mission of strengthening and diversifying the economy and creating equitable opportunities for our residents? So what we're going to get into on the next slide is talking about ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funding. It came to the city, as you know, to mitigate the impacts from the COVID pandemic. The Office of Economic Development has 4 buckets or 4 focus areas that you can see on your screen. I went ahead and put up for a reminder the project summaries that were written a couple of years ago and voted on by the council. So these are the summaries that were provided to the US Treasury and what we're following with the deployment. We'll go into the first one and my intention is to give you an overview and a status update on where we are with the deployment of these funds. So the next slide gets into Bright Futures. This project summary was really focused on how do we look at the economy in the city of Santa Fe? How do we diversify it? As we know, a large portion of our economy is focused on not only government services, but the next largest area of our economic well-being is focused on tourism and hospitality, which was impacted quite a bit during the pandemic, as we know. So Bright Futures was really written to support trades and the development of job opportunities for our residents. There was mention, if you can look at the project summary, supporting and working with the Santa Fe Community College. So I'll give you an update on some of the things that we're working on currently. You should see very soon, I think it's starting committee process, a contract with Santa Fe Community College. This is supporting a trades and certifications coordinator to work at promoting the trades and certification programming at the college, as well work with youth and what are called opportunity youth to market the opportunities at Santa Fe Community College, as well looking at what are the barriers that some of those students encounter, whether they're fees, transportation, other social needs, and identifying wraparound services. And that coordinator would be able to identify resources outside of the certifications programming. We also are working on a program with Reading Quest to support high schoolers in workforce literacy. Literacy is something that we know is a challenge with many of our students. Reading Quest is a wonderful nonprofit in Santa Fe that works with the schools to increase literacy. And so this program will be around making sure that the literacy skills that are developed are in direct response to needs that our employers and our community are identifying that are lacking. As well, we are working on a program, hopefully deploying soon with the kitchen tables, supporting training and certifications in Spanish for commercial food systems support. Many of our businesses in Santa Fe are looking for help to navigate the process of how to start a food business. And we will be deploying that programming along with them bilingually, as well as College and Career Plaza, another really great nonprofit that is in the workforce ecosystem. They are looking at risk youth to make sure that they have intern opportunities, as well as support on how to navigate applying for college. Stagecoach Foundation is really focused on the film industry and supporting our veterans in our community. And then our last one is probably the one that I'm extremely excited about. We are working with Motiva, which is the consultant that helped with Somos un Pueblo Unido on their Gateways for Growth plan to develop a specific strategic workforce development plan for our office and for the city. If you recall, this was an action that was identified in their plan. So this will be really helpful for our office. I also wanted to mention that we recently completed our Workforce Development Academy through the Great Jobs, Great Cities work. And there we accomplished quite a bit to get our workforce development strategy in place. We've identified a lot of ecosystem partners. The strategic plan is a part of that as well. In review and hopefully coming to fruition very soon, we are talking to Maria Sanchez-Tucker, Director Sanchez-Tucker, to look at ways that we can increase the after-school programming in the summer, because as we know, access to childcare is a barrier to workforce. And we also are looking at supporting Coding Academy and a new collar manufacturing program. as well as some other smaller contracts. Okay, next slide, please. Our second bucket, this was College and Careers Youth Workforce Core. And many of you are familiar with our work-based learning initiative through Santa Fe Public School, working with the wonderful Mr. Villanueva. And this is been very successful, where we have been able to work with employers across the city. Usually each session has over 40, and the popularity of the program continues to grow. Each session is oversubscribed, over 100 students, and we have leveraged that initial investment for, as you know, the one-time funding, the 1.2 million that the council approved to move forward to show the sustainability of that program. Next slide. The third slide is focused on public Wi-Fi. This was really about accessibility. As you know, the COVID pandemic forced many of us to telework and change a lot of our online behavior. So we recognize that there are areas in our community that we're lacking access to affordable Wi-Fi. And we are in the we did complete the installation of Wi-Fi trailers. Wi-Fi towers in the 2 trailer parks. And we have shifted scope a little bit because we did put out that solicitation that we were looking for trailer parks to install Wi-Fi towers. Didn't get a lot of response back. So now we are working with Director Sanchez Tucker on purchasing additional Wi-Fi hotspots and laptops that will be available for rent at the libraries. As well, we are working on bilingual public Wi-Fi maps that will be a great tool that we can promote in our community, providing navigation where you can access free public Wi-Fi. And also we are working with Director Sanchez Tucker to deploy Teen Years program, which will work with our teen center to train teenagers to support our senior citizens on accessing various technologies. And finally, as a part of that effort, we are looking at where we can deploy public boosts that increase the Wi-Fi accessibility in some key areas identified in Midtown area and Southside. And finally, the fourth slide is about supporting our small businesses. This was written to make sure that our businesses were strengthened. They had access to technical assistance. So we are in the process of working with New Mexico State University and MSU Arrowhead to run a community navigator program. So this will be very much fashioned like the Small Business Administrations program called the Community Navigators program, where they are acting as a hub. They're working with organizations that are trusted and embedded in marginalized communities, for example, Hispanic Chamber, other business associations that they will be able to provide networking opportunities as well as technical assistance and creating awareness around resources for our small businesses. As well, we are really excited to kick off a small business grant program. This will also be run through the NMSU hub, and they will be working with the Regional Development Corporation. The County Economic Development Office will also be investing in that grant. So these grants will be available for small businesses to access. We are increasing our entrepreneurial resource map. We're also working with UNM to develop a tribal entrepreneurial office. We're kicking off a buy local campaign, and many of the other programs that are listed here, and I'm happy to go into these. Also, I think translation services is really key to this. We are working with a contractor that would be available to translate all of our community events that we do on a regular basis. The other one to mention too is the library business centers. This is exciting that we are working with the library to set up business centers in addition to increasing business books, navigational services, and monthly entrepreneurial meetups, a book club in English and Spanish. These are highlights. Okay, and that gives you a summary of ARPA, and then I'll briefly go into the strategic plan on the next slide. So we're switching topics. Our comprehensive strategic planning is an effort that ever since I got to the office about 15, 16 months ago, this has been something that is top of priority for us. If you recall, the Angelou Plan is the last strategic plan that our office has had. This was written in 2004. We're looking at being governed by a 20-year-old plan. It's got great stuff, but we have the opportunity to update it with new data and new needs within our community. We did release an RFQ to kick off the first phase, focus on data analysis. And that community committee did identify a top contender. So we are in the process of working with our procurement team to get that contract in place. So hopefully the data analysis can kick off very soon. Once that phase is complete with updated data and analysis, we will be able to kick off phase 2, focused on community engagement, focused on generating the qualitative information. If you recall in the Angelou Plan 20 years ago, the consultant interviewed over 1,000 folks in our community. We're hopeful to follow suit. Also, I think we have the opportunity to set up a steering committee. This will really be where we can work with you all to identify key stakeholders and key industry leaders. Phase 3 is really about writing the plan, and phase 4 is rolling that out. So we are on phase 1, and it's really exciting. Last slide is, this is just a reminder, a shameless plug to make sure everyone knows where they can find information about our office. Our website is located on the city pages. We, as you saw, one of our priorities is increasing communication about not only what we do, but what our partners are doing in our community to get resources out to businesses. So we've increased the number of newsletters we put out, and we are kicking off a radio show on K-Suave that's monthly, where we are going over that content on our newsletters. And we do many events, two of which are coming up. Doing Business in Santa Fe 101, where we would meet with new business owners who are able to ask land use questions about how to navigate business licensing, permitting, zoning. And then we also do Coffee and Collab. This is where we see 70, 80 folks in economic development coming together. So that's a lot to throw out there. I stand for questions and discussion.
Thank you so much, Director Nelson. Questions, comments from members of the committee? Counselor Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, I know that I have an education perspective, and I know that the mental health crisis is really interfering with student success right now. And I know that Director Sanchez Tucker is probably a partner in addressing that, but really addressing that is key in addressing any challenges we face in our economy. So I just want to hear from your department specifically how that's being addressed, because I feel like if we'd partner in funding and addressing that, we would have a better workforce. I think there's a lot of people facing behavioral health challenges right now. I think that has great impact on our retention, our recruitment. If people don't have, the basic needs fulfilled to just get by day to day, then they're not going to be able to successfully keep a job or even find one. And I feel like we should target those individuals, and it shouldn't just fall on one department in addressing this very large issue. I think it should come from multiple. They have something to offer. They just need help. And I don't think there's enough funding from one department to address that right now. So if we would put our kind of heads together and resources together, I think that we could have greater impact, because I truly feel that that's a huge issue that needs to be addressed so that we kind of see benefits, all across the community. So how is the department addressing that in general? Because I think it falls within this.
Madam Chair, Counselor, I think your points are really well taken. I've got a couple of ways of how we're approaching it. I really appreciate how you acknowledge this is multi-pronged and it involves a lot of organizations all working together towards addressing it. Our work that we're looking to do with SFCC, I'm particularly excited about because we are looking to support a coordinator that's not only marketing those trades and certification programs, but that coordinator will be able to be aware of many of the social resources that are available in the community to connect those students with that are experiencing challenges, whether it's mental health or other situations. So I think that's one way. SFPS has been such a great partner too. And when we work with interns, they're not just getting plugged into an internship program. They're also looking at other ways of how to be financially literate, how to be a responsible citizen, et cetera. We can talk with them to see, are they addressing mental health? I think as well, we focus on healthcare in general. That is a targeted industry. If you recall on our priority list, business development is one of the ways that we are trying to diversify the economy. Healthcare is one of those, and you know that mental health falls in that category. So we are looking at how do we incentivize businesses to come here? Is it looking at grants? How do we look at our mental health companies that are here and make sure they have all the tools that they need to grow? So that's one way. As well, we work very closely with Director Sanchez Tucker, who that's really where the mental health support is falling into. I think some of our other programs that we're looking at, we can do a better job, like even Reading Quest, College Plaza, many of the organizations that we're working with that provide these wraparound services, we can communicate that this is of utmost importance. And it will take a second too. We got a pre-draft of the feedback on what teens want to see and what challenges they're dealing with in our community. Mental health was number one. And I know Director Sanchez Tucker is working really well with the Teen Center and their director to deploy supports there in that area. We're always open to looking at other ways of how we can increase that support.
And in regards to adults, because I feel like adults are experiencing the same thing, are we doing recruiting with partners that deal with case management with these individuals? Like, are we out there reaching out? Because I'll tell you right now, if someone's struggling with behavioral health, they won't have the capacity to do a job search. And I feel like as a city, we could take responsibility and, reaching out we have great partners that are addressing the mental health crisis. It's definitely not what it needs to be to address the issue, which is huge. But are we partnering with those individuals to connect and recruit to the workforce? Because, having a job gives some of these individuals some hope, some confidence, some self-worth. Is there a partnership at all that takes place like that?
Madam Chair, counselors, this is fantastic questions. And that's why the strategic plan is going to be so instrumental in how we're putting our focus. And I mentioned because of the Angelou plan 20 years ago, healthcare is still a targeted industry that is helping us be targeted. So I'm hopeful that when we do the comprehensive plan, that's when we will be getting down in the weeds, understanding what is it within that field, in that industry that you need? What are the gaps in the workforce that you need? How can we help, whether it's recruit businesses? Can we support training programs? Is it best served that we are supporting our employers with resources that are supporting their employees' mental health? There's a lot of ways that we can come on board that I think our strategic plan will really refine our approach in that area.
I think a lot of case managers that are managing adults and behavioral health work really hard to find them jobs. So I think it would be I think it's necessary for the city to take responsibility in making that connection and offering them some type of resource or a menu or something that could assist case managers. I know case managers do a lot of work just in that in itself and trying to find these individuals employment and support. I feel like as a city, having close partnership with those nonprofits that treat behavioral health is key, and saying like, here's the menu of job opportunities, here are training opportunities, here are ways that the city can support the adults in our community who are struggling and kind of need a fresh start and building their lives back. I would really like us to take an active role in that, and have close relationships with community partners with that goal as a focus. I think it would help nonprofits. I think they would appreciate it, but I think it would help our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Castro.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, Director. Thank you so much, Counselor, for those comments. I sort of want to piggyback a little bit, and please, Director, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. I want to expand a little bit on the Coffee and Collab and the HRA program, because my understanding is one of their goals is to focus on some of this mental health. Yes, for youth, but also building community around the queer community in particular. And I know Casey is sort of leading that charge, but can you talk to us a little bit about the Coffee and Collab?
The two.
The HRA collaboration and the Coffee and
Okay,
Collab
the
that we're
two.
doing through the economic
Okay.
development.
Counselors, thank you so much for the question. You asked about two separate events, very much similar in the vein that a lot of what we do and how we can be successful is all about not only relationship building, so we can understand these hundreds of partners and what they are doing in our community, but it's also about convening these groups so they're able to network and communicate so we can get information out easily. Coffee and Collab is really focused on economic development ecosystem, for lack of a better word. Again, if you start to start listing all of the organizations in our community that are involved with economic development, the list grows into the hundreds. We've got a list of around 200 that is on our immediate call list that we send these invitations out. It constantly grows. On a decent day, we get about 80 folks that attend those, but it's been as low as 30 to 100. Those, again, are quarterly, and we are working to develop a communications network. Again, this is all about getting information out from us as well as getting information back from our partners. We also are identifying a project pipeline. This is really important to understand the top priority needs within our ecosystem, our economic development field. So we've got a list going to quickly understand, okay, SCORES, they need financing help to deploy their entrepreneurial services in Spanish. They're lacking funds. So we can help connect them to grants, et cetera. And those are just two ways that we've been focused on with Coffee and Collabs. You back down, or you start to filter from economic development, and that's where you get our need and the need we're hearing from our community to help convene and facilitate those connections, whether it's industry, whether it's neighborhood or placemaking, or whether it's a focus group like a population like the HRA that is really focused on diversity and inclusion. So HRA has come up and said, you know what, we are convening our community members very much in the same vein to establish better communications, but also they have used that as an opportunity to highlight resources that are available to those business owners and allied partners. And that's where have started to really explore the needs within those social service providers and highlight the resources that are available for the community too, like mental health.
And I imagine that you already have these on your list of hundreds of organizations you work with. But I think the S3 organization, which we already work with in terms of the LifeLink and the SOS, is a great place for us to plug in. And they're actively thinking about how to transition folks in. So that's always a good place to sort of plug into our ecosystem. And in particular, I think there's been discussion about day centers, and that would be a way to sort of transition into those job readiness programs, which the sort of grouping of the folks that are on the MyAB right now, which we hope to be a network at some point, is working on job readiness, but also mental health and addiction issues as subcommittees. And so those two could work very closely together. These are just ideas. So thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation and I cede the floor.
So much. Any other questions, Counselor Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. and Thank you, Director Nelson, for being with us. Two quick questions on the strategic plans. For the Wi-Fi strategic plan, are we coordinating it all with the county?
Counselor, I always mess this up. Madam Chair, counselors, at one time I'm going to get that right. Yes, we are. Right now, it is just in our regular collaboration, but we're very close with the county's Economic Development Office. We have regular check-ins, and we are very much in sync of what they're looking at. They are in the process of creating a strategic plan as well. We're hopeful to align those, and we are in communication regularly.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to make sure that we're not doubling up efforts and duplicating services. So perfect. In regards to your department's strategic plan, do we have a timeline for that? I know you had said we had hoped we've got the RFP coming out, hope to begin engagement, but there's many phases. And do you have a potential timeline for all phases to be complete?
Madam Chair, counselors, wonderful question. I think if you had asked me a year and a half ago, I would have said we would be done by now. However, understanding the timelines that we are up against has changed that. And I would think that 12 months out, we're going to be in a really good place to have a draft. I would be hopeful.
So 12 months from
From
RFP
now,
being,
from now.
from now.
Now,
Okay.
because we are in phase one, we were told, we're confident that that can take maybe 3 months. I think that's on the high end. At the same time, we can start to write that RFP. So that is coming online within 3 months and be really hopeful. Let's say 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
And that is an estimate. Obviously, variations can impact that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
We're
that.
eager to get it done in 12 months.
Thank you. I appreciate it. With that, no other questions. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments from the committee? A couple things. Back to the conversation on the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. One thing that I know I've discussed with the deputy city manager of the city is that we've been starting to try to get more feedback from not just the top brass, but how do we start to move down into the workforce? And that's something I'd be really, I would really like to see as we're getting a steering committee, especially in those industry sectors, not just getting the industry leaders, the CEOs and whatnot, but how do we actually get down into the workforce? So seeing if we can work with our partners to make sure that we are identifying, some of those up and coming leaders who really, have a lot to think about the industry, but are also still, doing the ones that are on the ground floor doing all the work. So not to say that other people aren't working, but it's a very different experience when that's your day to day, as opposed to as you move up, things start to shift. So I would really like to see that, because I know that can have a really big impact on how we start to assess what barriers there are for certain industries, as well as where are the growth opportunities and how do we move those along. Also regarding Wi-Fi, do we have maps of the city of where, service is spotty and, we're not getting it? Because I know that we were focusing in on some of the trailer parks and the mobile homes, and we were looking at, gosh, this was a while ago, but looking at, who might have limited ability to actually access, the public Wi-Fi, the libraries, or, hit the schools with the hotspots that we were shooting out into the parking lot. So curious what that looks like as we're mapping the city where there's not accessibility and what we have found there.
Madam Chair, counselors, fantastic question. We do have various maps that show a variety of access points. And so all the way from Wi-Fi accessibility down to obviously the broadband connections. We are working with Sean Moody and Larry Worstel on our team, and they have a wealth of knowledge and visualizations. One of the things that we are hopeful to deploy with our ARPA dollars around accessibility is that map. We want to take the information that they have showing where services is for and make sure that we are publicizing. These are the areas that you can go to access Wi-Fi while we are addressing with our strategic plan, with our boosters, the areas that are weak. Again, this was written to focus on Midtown, Hopewell Man area and the South Side, where we know not only do we have high concentrations of families, but lower income levels as well too.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. And I'll follow up with staff. Sean, who is it? Sean
Okay.
and Larry, that have that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And we are in the process of compiling that to hone our strategy of where we put those boosters, because that information is coming from their office. So we can get those maps for you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then on that same vein, I know there's been a lot of conversation around fiber. And we've had conversations around this in a couple different areas. One is as we're doing infrastructure repairs, road repairs, and we're really getting down in there is looking at how we have that dig once policy. So if we're already going to go and be, mucking things up, may as well start putting in that infrastructure for fiber. But as you're looking at that Wi-Fi strategy, how are we looking at Wi-Fi towers as opposed to really starting to convert over to fiber and making sure that that's accessible throughout the city?
Madam Chair, counselors, this is the question, I think, in front of everybody's mind that is focused on deploying better broadband connectivity and Wi-Fi access, especially with the deluge of federal funding that has come through the state, one being the NTIA. So we have seen in the last week several fiber companies that have come to us. Those franchises have come to you, if not are coming to you to review. It is an interesting point that you raise, because essentially if they are putting their fiber in the ground, those are construction projects that take many months to complete. Ideally, we would work with our public works team and figure out how can we do this in the least impactful way and get that information to those companies. Currently, we don't have any development projects, even with the passage of some of the franchise agreements. No development has been, to my knowledge, has been identified as ready to break ground. But it's a perfect time to, we're at a good point that we would be able to bring all the parties together so we can have those conversations.
Okay, wonderful. And I know this isn't your project, but you are involved and Randy, Director Randall, this would be for you. Midtown, we're about to start doing all of that, as we call it, horizontal infrastructure work. And I think that would be a real missed opportunity as we start to, create more roadways. We're going to be doing a lot of construction over there. So I want to make sure that we don't miss that opportunity to lay fiber, especially in this, area of the city that is so central and that, we're hoping to see a lot of activity around. And my understanding is that was something that the film industry had mentioned as well, that one of their challenges of actually being able to do post-production, which when it comes down to dollars and money coming into the city and GRT coming into the city and people actually having those jobs here, broadband access was one of our Achilles heels. And so with everything that's happening at Midtown and the studios, I want to make sure that we don't miss the opportunity to lay that infrastructure now before we go and build everything and then have to rip everything back up. Last comment, and then I'll be quick because we're almost done. I really appreciate Councilor Chavez bringing up the conversation around mental health. And I think that one thing that you said, Councilor, was about how we look at the different roles of our different departments and how they work together. And I think that that's a really, good conversation to have to make sure that, one, we're not replicating work throughout different departments. But the other area that I keep pushing right now is how we collaborate with the state. And at the end of the day, the state really does need to assist us with this. We've talked about the mental health infrastructure being decimated. It really does need to be rebuilt. So I know that you do have connections at the state. You were there before. And then as we move into the legislative session, as we look at some of our priorities, as we look at some of those pieces that we are going to be pushing, I think it'd be really wonderful if we had some, besides just saying, hey, we need more mental health, but what are some of the specific requests that we can make that we say, hey, if you can do this, the city can really leverage. I don't know if we'll be able to get that, before this session, it is a 60-day. So it'd be great if we had something. But as we look at that strategic plan component, I do want us to think of not just the resources at the city, but what are the things that we would need from specifically the state or even federal government, whoever it is, we can get some resources from that would allow us to actually really magnify that work. So I'm really glad Councilor Chavez brought that up because we are timely on that one. And you have a response. Go right ahead, Councilor.
I don't have a response. I just have a comment. I agree. I feel like the mental health infrastructure really is going to fall on the state in regards to creating a foundation in order for municipalities to build off of. I would love to see, this popped in my head, I would love to see in your strategic planning data collected from partners though, is when we're trying to build our economy as a city with this high needs group and going from youth to adults, how can we include them and what resources are needed from the city in order to help those individuals be productive community members? I think that would be key data because I think that's a huge group. I think when we talk about turnover, when we talk about things like that, we have a lot of community members that are living in unstable households right now. We are a high poverty state overall. And so I feel like when I'll say that mental health is kind of our root cause for a lot of our issues. I truly believe that. And I believe that falls on the economy as well. I think we have a workforce that's there, but that needs assistance and they could benefit for being part of the workforce and kind of getting out of that hole of poverty. And so we kind of need to make sure all of our gears are working together to try to help build all of the components of our community members. But I think that would be a key data if we're looking at how to come up with a strategic plan. And I don't think it would be a lot of work, but I think it would be very beneficial and very telling to talk to partners that are addressing this issue and kind of in the mud working with it. How can we help in regards to pulling these individuals in to help build our economy as a city? I don't know if you've talked about that or considered that as a component of the data that you're going to be examining in regards to the strategic plan, but I feel like it needs to happen. And it would be a great way to create collaboration with multiple departments to see how we could, it's just a conversation starter, right? We have a common goal, we have a common issue that we're trying to address and putting our heads together, looking at the same data and kind of saying like, how can each of us address this issue would be, I think, very beneficial for the community. So just a piece of data that I would ask that you consider and try to collect, I think would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Counselor. And thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for being here. And I want to thank you. I know we've talked about this at EDAC quite a bit of the communication piece. I've really noticed a large effort from your team and from you about what are some of the different strategies. So thank you for that, because I know that that is something that we're going to have to keep puzzling together and trying different tactics and strategies. So thanks for doing that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, counselors, for the opportunity to talk with you all.
Have a good night. Enjoy the kiddos wherever they are. All right, moving on. We are going to now go to the consent agenda. Counselor Garcia, we'll start with I. It's a request for approval of grant award agreement number 223 SF DNM 002 with Corporation for National and Community Service for providing foster grandparent volunteer services in the total amount of $38,013 through June 30th, 2025. And then for JK and L, I'm assuming that you will have the same reason for recusal. So I will just make that note now and not make you sit through all the caption reading and voting and make it come back and forth. So go right ahead, Counselor.
Sure. So I will be recusing myself from items I, J, K, and L as I work for the federal government that administers these volunteer programs.
Move to approve. Wait, oh, yeah, let's let Counselor. No problem. Oh, I did read the caption for that one, but no worries. There we go. Is there a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? And if not, roll call, please.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item J, request for approval of a grant agreement with Corporation for National and Community Service for the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program in the total amount of $52,500 through March 31st, 2025. Is the motion? Is there a
Move
motion?
to approve.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? And if not, roll call, please.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, we're moving on to item K, request for approval of a grant agreement with Corporation for National and Community Service for out-of-state transportation and per diem training in the total amount of $2,500 through June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. And last, request for approval of intergovernmental agreement with the State of New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department for providing volunteer services for the Division of Senior Services volunteer programs in the total amount of $313,120 through June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner, Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Director Randall. We will wait for Counselor Garcia. All right, moving right along, on to matters from staff. I will pass it over to you all.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Counselors. Good evening. I just wanted to say I appreciate the conversation we just had with Director Nelson. I think we've been really successful working with economic development to think of new ways that we can support the community more broadly and not in silos, but how can we use resources to better serve the community. And so one of the programs that was mentioned was Teen Years, and this was something that has been brought up to me for several years now about bringing teen years to train teens to work, to train our seniors how to use technology. And our seniors are constantly asking for those type of classes. And so I think we're exploring this. The first program will be an introduction tomorrow at the Meg Center from 1 to 2. And we're really excited about the idea of possibly training some teens, a cohort of teens from Santa Fe that can actually be trained to help our seniors. So we're looking at more intergenerational programs. And then just invite you to our family night at the Teen Center on Friday. It's going to be a cornhole tournament, so it should be lots of fun. So thank you very much.
What time is that on Friday for anyone listening?
I believe it's 5 to 8.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, just a few things. We're expecting an LOE back tomorrow for a research and data analyst position. And I don't think we've had many of them in the city. The primary is going to be first to move the Santa Fe data platform into that person's responsibility to ensure that it continues, because Cindy Kahn will be moving away from that. And so we'll bring that in-house with her support and hopefully make it more vibrant and more current. To me, the biggest problem with the platform has been that the data gets out of date so quickly. And if someone goes to it and is looking for something and it's old, they don't go back. So we think keeping it current is going to be really important. I just before this meeting was working with the Sister Cities Committee. I wanted to just share with you that it is very active and very more aggressive than I've seen it in the past. I think our Sister Cities program is working well, and we might want to consider having a presentation one time soon by that committee, Carol Robertson Lopez, who continues to chair it. I think she could come and share some good information. Our summer markets have been very strong, both in attendance and I'm told in the economic impact that has happened at those events. Art Santa Fe, Spanish Market, White Hawk, Indian Market, and the Opera have all reported stronger attendance and stronger buying at those markets. So I think that's a really I don't have anything specific to tell me what those results are. We do know that IFAM was way up in their sales, and I think we reported that before. And just finally, the mayor had received some comments that visitation was down this year, and why was our tourism off? And I want to clarify that our tourism is not off. Visitation is actually up for 7 months ending in July. We're actually up 1.3% in citywide hotel occupancy. And that's both about a 0.7% up in downtown and 2.1% increase on Cerrillos Road. Cerrillos Road for the 7-month period is at 67.8%, and we're at 69.5 downtown. The other good news is average rate is held, because we were a little concerned as we're moving away from the post-pandemic bubble, and it really was a bubble, that we would not be able to sustain the significant increase that happened in average rate of over 30%. And we are holding that rate at both in both downtown and Cerrillos Road year to date is just down $1.32. So it's very close. Downtown is up $4.83. So the good news is that visitation to our city is not down. And I think if a few businesses are down, I will always suggest that they look at their model and make sure that it's keeping current, because our visitors are changing. The age of our visitor is coming down a little bit, which has been a very intended consequence. And but their spending has been a little bit more reserved. As they're spending, frankly, more on their hotel room, they don't have quite as much to spend in some other areas. So businesses really need to look at their model and make sure that they're keeping up with the trends that we're seeing. And hopefully by strengthening the data platform, everyone's going to get better information and they can be working off the same base.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Director Randall. Appreciate that. And it'll be interesting to potentially get a report on the summer markets after we get all the data in. So we'll keep in touch for that. We already had matters from the committee. Still good? No more matters? All right. Matters from the chair. I have none. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, September 4th, and at 6 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.